Hi, my name is Hamza and welcome back to City Skylines. In this video, I'll show you how to build transit-oriented development and increase your public transport usage by correct city planning. By the way, I will do plopping actual buildings and not really zoning, maybe in the outskirts, but in the center I will do plopping, but you can also zone it if you want to. So we'll be developing the surrounding area of this station. It is a kind of suburban station, but you can do it for any type of station. I just chose this because there was a big gap between two stations and the line was underutilized. So I wanted to give the line a bit more usage. So you can notice that there are some walking paths and bike paths. Those are here intentionally because you don't want people to cross the tracks really. There are some like service railway crossings, but those are mainly for, you know, emergency vehicles and services, not for private vehicles or for deliveries. So we'll start with the downtown, and I like to use commercial and high density. Yeah, those are offices. I wanted to say high density industry. And the best kind of office is probably those high tech because they have this cool thing where there are many sizes of those offices and they fit in well with those more art deco-ish buildings, and that's pretty neat. So enough about that, it's time to get building. You can see that I use MoveIt quite often because I want to move those buildings in a way so they look like they are near the path and they will actually connect to the road, and that is pretty nice. And probably the best buildings for this kind of area are smaller buildings upgraded with Rico. Rico offices are the best for high density because if you have like high unemployment, they house like 500 people, which is amazing and extremely useful. But as we get a bit further out, this is like a few blocks of just downtown, and then we're going straight to the suburbs. So the best probably method of doing this is probably put them on the nearest roads to the station. Commercial goes there usually because you have much higher chance of having customers discover you if you're near some major station and a lot of people walk around there. Maybe people will go to your business because, you know, they're waiting on their train and it leaves in like 30 minutes. So that is very useful from those things. Also, you can even try splicing buildings together, but it doesn't look well usually if you are not like an expert, and I'm not an expert, so I don't really try splicing buildings together. Ooh, that looks kind of nice. Yeah. sometimes like crazy height differences are okay, but sometimes they are just kind of disgusting. Also, here is one of the great things about those paths. There are usually some buildings that can just somehow fit in there, and you can even have several types of zoning in here. Maybe if you want to, you can put like leisure, which is great for increasing the attractiveness of the area because people have something to do in here. Even tourism is quite fun because they have some interesting buildings for it, but usually leisure is the best when it comes to like splicing it with something else if you want to splice them. And this is an example of easily spliceable building. You can like see the buildings are spliced together. There is some Z fighting. You can eliminate that with a bit of MoveIt action. Mm. Yeah, I'll just delete this building and move it in here. You can put also some smaller things. It's great for detailing. Like you can put, for example, a mini park or something. And now I'll put like this building, I guess. And it's time to get to like the residential part of this area with lower density, but still pretty dense. Suburbs will be built over here. I'll go with the eco-residential because it looks kind of modern, and this area also looks kind of modern. It was probably redeveloped in the recent years because there was like a factory or something in here. I don't know. And there are some offices in there as well, which is basically just my way of doing mixed density with vanilla, mixed use with vanilla. There are some custom assets, but they are kind of tough to work with. And I've used them several times, but it's kind of boring after a while because you have to put two buildings on top of each other. Also, don't be afraid to mix things up a little so it doesn't look all boring. Because when you mix things up a little, it gives the area some character, and that's important. Because who would want a massive plot filled with just the same building? It's just boring. So now we'll go to the outside of the area. I will start to repeat the buildings because those were built like by some kind of developer who wanted to sell the land cheaply, or apartments cheaply. This is pretty much how some of the new developments look in some European cities. They just slap few houses that look quote-unquote modern and sell it for hundreds of thousands of euros because it's modern and sustainable. But it's actually just greenwashing. So now I'll skip this part because it would be just putting some lower density buildings, and we'll get to the suburb. I like to use the American eclectic theme, but that is just for this build, which I'm doing now. This is sort of my personal build, and I just spam the buildings in here, and after a while the buildings will appear. I will, however, dezone this small area so the buildings don't like spawn on the main road, because that could cause congestion, because we're thinking both about pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists, even though motorists are the ones responsible for the cities being unlivable, pretty much. But yeah, they have slow speed limits already in this city, so that's probably the only thing we can get them so they're not extremely mad. I mean, in the ideal world, we would just convert them to public transit users, but they might not be able to use public transit. Also, a sneaky way to add a power source to an area is to use, where was it? These substations, because they look great by like railways and actually generate power. Now, if I just speed the simulation up, also try connecting it. Something like this should be adequate for it. And now it's just growing. Now it's time for like local transit. We won't really do trams in here because this is like far from the center. So we'll just use buses. And the easiest way is to have one circulator line which just circulates around like the suburb to get people around, maybe to their friends. And that's basically the purpose of that line. Usually I use smaller buses for it, and usually I divide the number of stops by 2. Then I'll find a suitable transfer stop, maybe somewhere like here, and I'll use it to both cover more area and get to the transfer point of the greater area. So for example, that is here, and I'll do this and go on the main road, because here nobody has a way to get to the other places. Yeah, you can see that I play City Skylines in a more like help everyone so they have a decent living standard. Now complete the line, change the color, something like this, select types, and for those more feeder lines to major rail lines, I use articulated buses because they have higher capacity. And finally there is like the downtown line, which just gets people around. This is basically just a loop, but not the Elon Musk loop, because this is actually a bit effective. Yeah, I'm going to be harassed by those Elon Musk fanboys. And here I put 3 vehicles, or the half of the stop. I divided the number of stops by 2 and add 1, for example. This increases as the number of stop also increases. So in like extremely long loops, you can go for with the mentality of 1 vehicle per stop. So now, after we add some amenities like education, which will be near the city center probably. No, it will be in the suburbs because of being able to build a playground in here. So Control A. Oh, there isn't actually a space for it. Probably remove these houses. I said remove houses. Houses successfully removed. No, not really. And there is a bus line in here, but you might want to add a stop in there just in case. Yeah, this is very connected, this area. And now, for the higher education, you can add something like a high school near the downtown. Or if you're fancy, you can add like those, for example, Institute of Creative Arts, and I have not built that yet. So yeah, here it is. And now this area will slowly improve as people get more and more educated. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the domain.